Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode on my YouTube channel. Welcome to Jim's 5am Club. As you can see, it's going to be a cracker of a morning and a magnificent sunrise. There's hardly any cloud on the horizon. There's just a little bit of light haze, which is going to orange up and I guess deliver a spectacular sunrise at about 6:10 this morning. So hopefully I'll just keep on talking and going through my book summary, and we'll get to experience it step by step, seeing how it transforms the sky and how the Opera House there and the Harbour Bridge welcome in another day, another beautiful day. For those who have been following me over the past year and a half, 2 years, you'll know that Jim's 5am Club is a regular occurrence. I do one a day, every day. And today is no different. And I've got an absolutely fantastic book to go through this morning. It's entitled Chatter. The book is entitled Chatter, and it was published on Australia Day 2021, just over a year ago, 26th of January 2021. And one of the beauties of my YouTube channel is that I'm able to present books that have been published a couple of thousand years ago, or material that's been published. And I can also talk about stuff which is so new that even the bookstores haven't got those books stocked up yet. So today's book is a great one. Sit back, join me on this vicarious journey so that we can see the ferries, the Sydney ferries, making their first run of the day. We can watch the sunrise evolve throughout the morning, and hopefully we can learn something new by tapping into this OPE, other people's experiences, and learn something from this book written by Kross, a book on chatter. And as you can understand, the book has a lot to talk about in terms of the mind chatter and how to control it, how to leverage it, and how to make the most of it. So without a further ado, let's kick off and see where this journey takes us today. We've got a light breeze coming from the west. It's a little bit chilly, but it's also balanced by the beauty of the colours that are parading and making Sydney look ever so beautiful. I love this time of year, and as we said yesterday, daylight savings has ended, so we get to experience a few more sunrises, because the vlogs that I was doing before were usually done in darkness, but now with an hour extra sleep, we get to see the beauty and the magnificence and the mystical sense of this time of day. So the author kicks off by saying that the mind is flexible if we know how to bend it and how to flex it. We can use our thoughts to change our thoughts, which is a powerful concept and a unique ability that we humans have. This book is all about quietening the negative thoughts, the overthinking that leads some people to depression and anxiety. It's important to understand that from a scientific perspective, the author reminds us that we humans, are the only species on Earth that can carry out a process called introspection. The ability to look inside, to think, to consider, to balance. And this thing sets us apart from all the other animal kingdom, but it can also burden us. It could either be a blessing or a burden, depending on how you use it, how you leverage it, and how you make the most of it. So very, very powerful to understand and to think about. So what we'll do is we'll take what we're learning now and see what we can learn. So the author continues to talk about the mind, the chatter, and how to make the most of it. And he makes the point that in order to speed up and optimize our cognitive functions, you really need to put a filter on the information that you allow into your mind. So from a scientific perspective, we are built with a filter, and it's called the reticular activating system, the RAS. For if we did not have a filter on our mind, all of the things that are concurrently happening to us at this point in time would go into our brains, into our minds, unfiltered, and we'd simply be overwhelmed by all of the stimulus or stimuli that are concurrently happening at the one time. So what the author is saying is that we are designed to automatically filter out things, or to filter in things, and the things that are filtered in are, of course, the things that are important for our survival, things that are important to protect us from danger, and things that are significant for our particular life in terms of the goals and the things that we've decided are important for us. But we also need to supplement and complement the reticular activating system by managing our thoughts as well, by overriding some of the thoughts that we may have to ensure that we optimize our cognitive functions. And as I've said on other vlogs, there is a significant danger in terms of having a completely open mind, because if you're not discerning with what you're thinking about or what goes into your mind, if you don't manage it and optimize it as best you can, what happens, or what can happen, is that a person who allows their mind to be opened and are not at guard to their mind may allow their mind, their brain, to become the garbage dump, the tip for all other people who are very opinionated and are actively looking to share their rubbish, their conspiracy theories, their negativity, their poison with anybody wishing to welcome their crap. So once again, be careful of having an open mind. Our job is to protect ourselves. Our job is to put a moat, to build a deep, wide moat around our sanity, to ensure that we don't become victims of OPR, other people's rubbish. So keep your mind closed, and of course open it up to the things that serve you, open it up to the things that add value, but don't be open and trusting of things coming from people who have no idea what they're talking about, and people who are on a mission, have a narrative to cause fear, uncertainty and doubt, and to manipulate the truth and manipulate those around them. So you need to feed your mind, but you need to feed it right. You need to nurture it. You need to look after it. And as we said, science reminds us that on balance, most people, I'm not saying all people, but most people can only process 3 to 5 pieces of information concurrently at any time. So the more mind chatter you have, the more disturbances you have, the more at risk you are of being overwhelmed, of being distracted, and of being rendered incapable of dealing and coping with the most simplest and easiest of challenges. So the author then goes on to remind us, and I love this point, this is a very powerful point, that we need to keep space available in our minds for processing, for dealing with stuff that come to us in a planned and in an unplanned way and fashion. So when you're wasting valuable resources by overthinking, by ruminating, by engaging in endless inner chatter, you can quickly fill up the brain with crap, and you'd be busy processing stuff, but not being busy at processing the right stuff and being productive. And we know that overthinking, we know that mind chatter, we know that worrying, ruminating, and overthinking things can have adverse effects on our health and our relationships. You know, people who are engaged with too much inner chatter also tend to be poor listeners because they're constantly distracted and they don't know when to stop with their oversharing. Got a little kayak coming this way. How beautiful is that? And when you're overthinking, when you're a poor listener, when you're engaged in tremendous amounts of inner chatter, you also tend to be stressed. And by being stressed, you're spiking your cortisol levels and you're causing yourself harm. So be warned, and understand that science are telling this time and time again. The second formal point to come out of this book from this author is where he tells us that when in doubt, zoom out. So when you're having doubts about your life, when you're having doubts about situations, when you're feeling stressed, fearful, uncertain, and doubtful, the author here says, when in doubt, zoom out, and you can change the perspective on the problem that you are facing. Because what happens, according to this author, is that we tend to lose perspective of our problems and we blow them. There is a tendency to blow them out of proportion by focusing on them, by overthinking them. So try to zoom out is the call to action from this author. When you're doubtful, when you're uncomfortable, take a moment to zoom out and experience and practice a thing called temporal distancing. And to think about the one key point: how important will this problem, how much damage will this problem cause me today when I'm looking back in 10 years' time? Will it be significant, or will it be absolutely a waste of time and insignificant? So temporal distancing, where you ask yourself, how will this matter in 10 years' time? Because we've got to understand that, as we said, there are a limited number of things that we can deal with. And if you're constantly dwelling on negativity, what happens is your body kicks into a thing called a stress response, which is unproductive. You tend to freeze, you tend to fight, or you tend to try and run away. So it becomes quite unproductive because it secretes what the author and scientists tell us. It tends to secrete cortisol into our system, and for about half an hour on average, depending on how much that secretion keeps on happening, you become primitive. You engage your reptilian primitive brain, and you enter this thing called a stress response, a fight, flight, or freeze response, where you can't think rationally, you can't deal in a measured way, you can't think in a productive way, and you're basically a victim and a prisoner, shackled to unreasonableness, and you don't act in a responsible and mature way. So the author here basically encourages us in his last point to basically free yourself up, to let go of negative emotions, and to understand that we need to deal with things, that we need to be productive in how we work things out, and to understand that each and every one of us need to fulfill our emotional needs whilst also working on our cognitive needs as well. So there is a bit of homework for each and every one of us to let go of our negative emotions and to fulfill our negative needs, not to ignore them. So to be very, very purposeful in understanding that we all have a job to do, and we can't just sweep things under the carpet. We can't ignore them because they will continue hurting us for times to come. The author, interestingly enough, talks about an ancient Greek philosopher, Aristotle, and quotes some of the learnings from Aristotle, where Aristotle actually says that in order to get rid of pain, we need to let go. We need to let go of our emotions. We need to let go of the things that are causing us grief and pain. And our brain needs to heal just as much as our heart needs to heal, and just as much as we physically need to heal. A lot of people don't consider that and don't understand that our brain needs to heal just as much as our heart does. So we can manage our brain to a certain extent by managing what we're thinking about, how we're thinking about it, whether or not we're caught up in our past, whether or not we're caught up too much in our future, because we've also learnt that people who ruminate and who dig up the past, who are too nostalgic, who are too caught up in their past, tend to experience depression. And people who spend too much time living out and worrying about their future suffer anxiety. So either end of the spectrum, that is a negative sort of influence on our on our mental health. So the answer that most people give is that we need to spend a little bit of time in the future, have 1 foot in the future, 1 foot in the past, but for our entire body, mind and soul to be invested, to be rusted on to the present, to the here and now. I am here, you're somewhere else, but you need to be where you are. You need to be fully rooted and fully invested in where you are, because the present will be your tomorrow's future and will also be your past. So don't spend too much time worrying about your future or your past, because you will miss out on your most valuable resource, which is your present. You know, we are given a lifetime, and our lifetime is an eternal present, the eternal now. Don't waste the now by worrying and thinking too much about yesterday or too much about tomorrow, is the key message that comes from this author. So a powerful book. So the author here says that we need a board of advisors. We need people that we can talk to, that we can tap into, who are going to help us put things into clear perspective. And last week I caught up with a friend of mine, a work colleague, and I was a little bit surprised and taken back where he shared with me some troubles, some challenges that he was having. And he did mention briefly and on the periphery that he may have had some suicidal thoughts. And my reaction, my instinctive reaction, was to basically say to him, to tell him not to worry about those things that lead him to worrying about taking his life, the relationships issues that we all face and we all worry about from time to time. And I think the most profound thing that I was able to come up with, and I got him to laugh, and I think I helped him out there, was to say, where would Hercules, where would the great Heraclius be? Where would Ulysses be? Where would Jason and the Argonauts be if it wasn't for the problems and the challenges that they faced and they conquered? Would we know who Hercules was today? Would his myth and his legend transpire? Would we know who Alexander the Great was? Would we know who Pericles was? Would we know who Jason and Ulysses was? I think I've said Ulysses a couple of times there, but we are coming live. But the big lesson to come from our lives, when we look back at heroes, the heroes in the world are the ones who had massive problems, massive challenges that life is going to send our way in waves. You know, as long as it's not a tsunami, but we're all going to receive our quota of problems, of issues, of struggles. And our call to action, our calling in life, is to welcome them, just like we're welcoming this beautiful sunrise, to welcome those challenges and problems and to deal with them, to solve them. Not to take our lives, not to consider committing suicide, running away, but to deal with them, because through dealing with them, we become our own hero in our own lifetime. We become Hercules, we become Ulysses, we become Jason and the Argonauts, we become Alexander the Great, we become us to the power of 100, we become us cubed, we become a massive hero in our own lifetimes. So the call to action is to address problems, to welcome problems, to deal with our problems, and to know that we all have a better tomorrow. The sun is going to come up again tomorrow in the same place or roundabouts. Some days it'll be covered in clouds, just like our lives are covered in problems, but there are mornings where we're going to see a magnificent sunrise, but you need to be around to experience it and to enjoy it. You need to be around for your children, for your partner. There are days where you're going to fight like cat and dog, and my wife and I maybe spent a decade fighting like cat and dog, but it was over the raising and the parenting of our children. We had different parenting styles. But once you get through it, life is absolutely beautiful. We are the best of friends. We love each other to death. But as we said, there are times where life is a struggle, life is a challenge. We get a tsunami of problems coming our way, but our call to action, our purpose in life is to trust in God, to serve others, and to be there for others, not to be there for our own selfish interests, to become someone. We're there to help solve problems for others and for ourselves, and to be there. So once again, another powerful book from this author. The book is entitled Chatter, and I'm sure there was a number of beautiful lessons that we're able to go through, pick up some OPE, other people's experiences, to help us get through the day, get through our lives, and to understand ourselves and others around us a little bit better. So thank you for joining me on this vicarious journey on this most beautiful Sydney autumn morning. I just hope that other people can get to watch my YouTube channel, to listen to these book summaries, because there's an opportunity for people who are bedbound, who are housebound, who are living internationally, to learn a lot of lessons. First of all, they can learn English by listening to my talking about things. They can see Sydney at its finest. They can learn from a lot of authors that I've got, that I cover, a lot of books. Now this is my 1,315th book summary or vlog that I'm doing. And you can vicariously enjoy it, regardless of where you live. All you need is an internet connection or a Facebook connection, YouTube, and you can enjoy the beauty of Jim's 5 a.m. Club. So spread the message if you can, let people know, because there are some valuable lessons. As I say, I'm not expressing my opinions, but what I am is a messenger, basically taking what other people have written and expressing it with the highlight and backdrop of Sydney. This morning we've got a beautiful, magnificent sunrise, and a perfect way to start Tuesday. Anyway, take care. Wishing you all the best, and until we meet again, have a wonderful day. Bye for now.